The stars above the dead moon hung like broken glass, silent, sharp, and waiting. 26 Valerian dreadnoughts formed a tight grid, their hulls pulsing with cold plasma veins. No greetings, no motion. Just tension as old as conquest. Then the void ruptured. A gravity shock rippled across the sector. Reality bent. Something massive tore through folded space. Asterisk, not a ship, a silhouette asterisk, and emerged like a god shouldering its way through existence. H.S.V. Titan's voice. 9 kilometers tall. Bipedal. Angular. A warform built to walk across stars and burn civilizations from orbit. On its bridge, nestled in the skull of the construct, Commander Elara Miles stood with her hands behind her back, calm as the stars flickered against her visor. Her breath didn't falter. Her gaze didn't waver. But her pulse thrummed like a drumbeat in a storm. "Status," she said. "Stable across all systems," replied Sol, the ship's embedded AI, its voice smooth and dry. "Dominion fleet has not opened communications. Their weapons are charged, but not armed." "Good." Elara watched as the Valerian grid adjusted, just barely. Micromovements. Retreating posture. They were recalculating now, unsure. The Dominion had expected a vessel. Not an apex construct. Let them doubt. Let them think Earth had gone mad. "Don't hail them yet," she said. "Let them stew." "Understood." The Titan loomed in silence, its reflective plating flickering with blue thermals. Beneath its feet, the moon fractured under the weightless pressure of its mass. Dominion dreadnoughts shifted again. Some flickered defensive shields. One drifted slightly off formation. "They're scared," muttered Lieutenant Marquez, watching from tactical. "They've never seen anything like this." "No one has," Elara replied. "That's the point." She remembered the first time Earth had sent a delegation to the Galactic Forum. Bright-eyed diplomats. Smiling. Hopeful. They never made it back. No one ever found the bodies. After that, Earth built war machines. Not to conquer, but to matter. And then they built the Titans. Elara had been there at the dry dock christening. She'd stood beneath this ship's core reactor while it thrummed like a sleeping sun. They hadn't painted this warship with colors. They had etched names of lost colonies across its inner hull, words only the crew ever saw. On the Valerian flagship Vorshan, High Chancellor Vorel Threx narrowed his 4 eyes and stared at the holopheed. The Titan stood motionless, a black colossus crowned with sensory spires and heat-lanced weapon arms folded across its chest. "What is it?" one of his advisors hissed. "It's human," Threx answered softly. "And they didn't come to talk. They have not even hailed." "Exactly." He watched it breathe. Not literally, but it felt like it. The construct gave off a slow rhythm of shifting hull patterns, each pulse echoing like a heartbeat through subspace. "They want us to speak first," he snarled. A predator forced to play prey. Back on Titan's voice, a communication ping chimed. "They're requesting identification and intent," said Marquez. "Of course they are." Elara gave a dry smile. "Send the standard header," she said. "But route the actual signal through Sol's diplomacy interface." The AI nodded, and then did something unexpected. Without permission, without warning, Sol initiated a short-range burst across Dominion encrypted channels. "Elara?" Marquez said. "Let it speak." Sol's voice transmitted in perfect Valerian dialect, stripped of tone and decorated with chilling grammar. "To the Velar Dominion, you are not speaking to Earth. You are speaking to its teeth." The dreadnought formation shifted. Not visibly. But sensors caught it, power surges, cooling systems flaring. Movement stifled by instinct. Elara walked to the central display. A live hologram flickered on, showing Earth's diplomatic fleet, smaller vessels behind the Titan's shoulder like cubs beside their mother. She zoomed in on one, an old model. The Sagan II. She'd served on that ship in her 20s. It still had scorch marks from the Europa skirmish. She remembered the silence on comms as their shuttle burned. She remembered the way Valerian fighters had turned their backs, assuming humans wouldn't retaliate. That assumption ended when half a continent was glassed in return. Sol spoke again, softer now. They are composing a reply. Let me guess, Elara murmured. They want an apology. They want us to stand down. The message arrived. Threx's voice buzzed across the deck like thorns over metal. Human construct, lower weapons, disengage propulsion fields, and state your purpose. This display violates interstellar protocol. Elara raised a brow. We're being scolded. Marquez snorted. By the species that firebombed Haven 9? Elara tapped the comm panel. Send this back. Earth recognizes no protocol written in the blood of its colonies. A pause. Sol flickered, tone neutral. Chancellor Threx's heart rate has increased. The Titan remained still, but its lower weapon flanges adjusted, just enough to be noticed. The movement sent Dominion ships into low alert. Shields shimmered. One vessel lost helm calibration for 2 seconds. The universe didn't blink, but everyone watching forgot how to breathe. Threx stood inside his bridge in silence. The human commander hadn't fired. She hadn't postured. She had spoken once. But his crew was unraveling. We should respond with... 1A began. Shut up, Threx growled. His hands clenched. He saw it now, this wasn't a provocation. This was a message. They had sent a weapon so massive, so incomprehensible, and parked it in his front yard, without fear. Without negotiation. Without even showing him its face. What kind of species does that? Back on the bridge, Elara turned to her crew. Hold position, she ordered. For how long? Marquez asked. She stared at the screen, eyes hard. Until they understand. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 2 now? They finally broke. The Valerians sent a formal transmission, wrapped in diplomatic syntax so precise it could have been carved from ice. Human Warform designated Titan's voice, you are hereby invited to initiate dialogue aboard Dominion Neutrality Beacon Jural 9. Attendance by your commanding representative is expected. Refusal will be interpreted as dereliction of protocol. Commander Elara Miles read it twice, then leaned back in the command chair. The stars beyond the viewscreen gleamed quietly. The Titan still hadn't moved. That was the message. They want to talk now, she said. Lieutenant Marquez folded his arms. And they want you to come alone. Classic power play. Neutral ground my ass. They're trying to re-establish control, Elara replied. And trying to make us look like the ones playing chicken. Sol's voice crackled gently. Recommend acceptance. Current psychological pressure is unsustainable without escalation. Diplomacy may reinforce deterrence. You just want to see how their leaders react up close. Correct. Elara stood. Prep the drop shuttle. No weapons. Just projection. You're seriously going to walk into a Dominion station? Marquez asked, incredulous. I'm walking into history. The shuttle docked in silence. Jural 9 was a pale, disc-shaped installation anchored in neutral orbit between the Titan and the Valerian fleet. Inside, it was polished, sterile, and utterly without warmth. Elara's boots echoed as she stepped onto the central platform, unarmed but unshaken. High Chancellor Voral Threx waited, surrounded by his retinue, tall, gaunt Valerians in armor made of bone steel and shimmering nanowebs. They looked like sculptures of fear itself. Threx offered no greeting. His gaze was calculating, not hostile, like a surgeon sizing up an anomaly on the table. You stand alone, Commander, he said at last. That was not expected. I brought the truth with me, Elara said. It doesn't need backup. The Valerian aides shifted uncomfortably. One of them, slightly shorter, with orange-fringed scales, tilted their head in subtle curiosity. Sub-strategist Kell, according to Sol's intelligence brief. Threx gestured. Let us begin. The conversation started as theater. Polite barbs, ceremonial titles, ancient doctrine quoted and deflected. Elara didn't flinch. She let them perform. And then, Without warning, she activated the hollow projector in her cuff. A full-scale feed shimmered to life. It showed Earth. Not the polished version from brochures, but real footage: ruins, wars, cities in flames. Mars colonies in mid-evac. Europa domes shattered under atmospheric breach. Elara spoke slowly, voice level. You think the Titan is a threat? It's not. She changed the feed. Now, Earth's counterstrikes. Orbital bombardments. Tactical ingenuity. A single corvette taking down 3 pirate dreadnoughts. Human vessels stitched with patchwork armor, burning but still flying. It's a response. Threx's jaw tightened. Are you threatening us? I'm informing you. Kel leaned forward. You survived all this? No. Elara looked him dead in the eye. We adapted to it. The hollow feed faded. Every system you see in that war form exists because someone tried to erase us, she said. We just stopped asking for permission to exist. Threx stepped closer. Your vessel is a weapon of psychological warfare. You arrived uninvited. You silence our channels. You bypass encryption. Why? Elara didn't blink. Because for a century, we tried playing by your rules. It got our diplomats killed and our colonies burned. And proven, Threx snapped. You burned Haven 9. We have the logs. A pause. Kel turned slightly toward the Chancellor. The logs were sealed. Enough, Threx growled. Back aboard the Titan's voice, Sol monitored everything. Dominion Chancellor exhibiting strain. Sub-strategist Kel is statistically likely to dissent within the cycle. Marquez leaned over the display. You think one alien doubter's going to break the Dominion? Movements begin with molecules. He scoffed. You sound like a poet. Poets win wars. Aboard Jural 9, the tension turned physical. A faint pulse rippled through the station, barely noticeable. But Elara's wrist display flared. What was that? She asked calmly. Threx said nothing. Elara glanced at her display. A Dominion stealth drone had approached the Titan's lower hull. Passive scan only, but invasive. She raised an eyebrow. Was that you trying to test my resolve? You entered our space with a living superweapon. Threx hissed. You'll forgive our curiosity. Curiosity gets you understanding. That move gets you warnings. She tapped her cuff. A silent transmission pulsed from her shuttle. A second later, the Titan shifted in orbit. It didn't activate weapons. It changed shape. Hull plating reconfigured in real time, revealing ancient scars across its exoskeleton. Names engraved. Battle damage not repaired. No threats, just history exposed. It was a silent gesture. And it worked. One of the Dominion ships broke formation. Its shield surged, then flickered. A power failure. Short. Panic-induced. Back on Jural 9, Elara looked directly at Threx. That, she said, was us holding back. Later, aboard the Titan, the crew watched the withdrawal of the 14th Dominion ship. They're not fleeing, Marquez said. No, Elara replied. They're rethinking the story they've told themselves. Sol interjected. Incoming priority message from Earth Command. Elara read it. Short. Final. Asterisk do not engage. But if they do, erase their fleet. Asterisk. She closed the message. No pressure. That night, if such a thing existed in orbit, Elara stood alone in the observation ring of the Titan's bridge. Sol broke the silence. Was it wise to show restraint? If they'd attacked, we'd win. But then we're just another empire. And you believe restraint will change them? She exhaled. No. But it'll plant doubt. And that's the crack we need. Sol paused. Your presence has destabilized their cohesion. One of their strategists is under watch. Kel, she said. Yes. Keep an eye on him. He's the first domino. The lights on the console dimmed. Outside, the Dominion fleet held its position. But they were farther away now. Tension still hung in space, but something had shifted. Not fear. Recalibration. Continue directly to Chapter 3? Sub-strategist Kell knew the moment the Chancellor stopped trusting him. The pause and briefing cadence. The deliberate omissions. The way eyes lingered too long on his datapad when he reported sensor data. And the silent guard that now flanked his workstation, pretending to run diagnostics. He didn't blame them. Not exactly. The Titan changed everything. From the moment that Colossus had emerged from folded space, Kell had felt the shift. This wasn't just technological superiority. It was psychological domination without a single shot. That kind of power couldn't be countered with numbers. It had to be understood. But Threx didn't want to understand. He wanted compliance. As always. On board the Titan's voice, Alara stood in her command chair, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the incoming telemetry. "They've moved 7 dreadnoughts out of formation," Marquez reported. "Spread pattern. Not random. Testing our reaction," she said. "See if we flinch." She didn't. "Orders? Let them play." The Titan remained stationary, limbs folded, eyes dark. A monument. A warning. Its restraint spoke louder than firepower ever could. On the Valerian flagship, Threx stared at the projections with narrowed pupils. "They won't move," Kell spoke cautiously. "They're winning by standing still." Threx turned sharply. "Then force them to move." He gestured to his aide. "Begin silent activation of null lance grid. Passive targeting. No firing unless provoked." Kell's blood chilled. Null lances were gravitational disruptors. Not designed to wound. Designed to erase. "That's escalation," he warned. "That's deterrence." "No," Kell said quietly. "It's desperation." The room stilled. Threx stepped toward him, face unreadable. "Your input is noted." Back on the Titan, Sol's voice cut through the quiet. "Dominion fleet has powered targeting systems. Energy readings consistent with null lance configurations." Marquez looked up sharply. "Those things vaporize mass on a quantum level." "They're not pointing them at us yet," Alara said. "No," Sol replied. "They are pointing them at the diplomatic fleet behind us." The screen lit with targeting overlays, 10 Dominion ships aiming not at the Titan, but at the human escorts huddled in its shadow. "They're trying to bait us," Alara said. "Force a response." "Protocol?" Marquez asked. Alara said nothing. Her father's face flashed in her memory, bruised, bloodied, dying under collapsed rubble. The peace accord had been signed. And they bombed the city anyway. She closed her eyes. "Not this time." She walked to the center console and activated the Titan's internal combat core. Not weapons, not shields. A simulation. Purely internal. But to enemy sensors, it would look like a cascade ignition, energy signatures spiking beyond standard thresholds, weapons locking onto every Valerian ship simultaneously, targeting matrices swirling like a coiled storm. Marquez stared. "That'll read like we're charging a star." "Let them think that," Alara said. "Won't that trigger a first strike?" "They won't risk it," she said. "They're watching a bomb countdown and trying to guess if the timer is real." On board Vorshan, Valerian engineers shouted across command consoles as their displays exploded in warning glyphs. "Titan is spooling core reactors. Projected output exceeds margin. It's targeting every ship simultaneously. New signal from the construct. Visual only." On screen, the Titan's face lit up, not with weapons, but with a simple projection. A hologram. Not threats. Names. Scrolling endlessly. The names of Earth's lost. "Every time someone tried to bury us," Alara's voice echoed across their bridge, "we carved their betrayal into our hull. You wanted us quiet. Invisible. Forgettable. We built something that would make forgetting impossible." Kell turned face pale. "We have to stand down." Threx clenched his jaw. "If we do, we validate everything they've done." Kell looked him dead in the eye. "They haven't done anything. That's the point." The command crew froze. "I won't fire first," Threx said at last. Neither will she, Kel replied. But she's already won. And then it happened. A single Valerian destroyer, Karos Fong *, lost coolant containment from overclocked targeting systems. A chain reaction surged through its subsystems, misinterpreted by 3 other ships as an imminent attack. 2 defensive torpedoes launched automatically. Not at the Titan. At a medical escort cruiser behind it. Elara didn't shout. She didn't need to. Sol had already reacted. Not with counterfire. With interception. A pulse. A command. One of the Titan's internal launch bays bloomed open. From it fired a singularity anchor, not meant to destroy, but to pull. A gravitational snare caught both torpedoes in midspace and dragged them harmlessly into a 0-point fold. No damage. No retaliation. Just stillness. The galaxy exhaled. For 5 full seconds either side moved. Then one by one, Dominion ships powered down weapons. Shields faded. Formations drifted apart, not in surrender, but something far more significant. Recognition. Later, in the debrief aboard Titan's voice, Earth's command link came through. Status? Elara leaned forward. They blinked first. In the Dominion chambers, Threx resigned quietly, citing stress-related impairment. He vanished from public view within a cycle. Kel never spoke publicly. But within cycles, Dominion doctrine shifted. Isolationist policies softened. Patrol routes changed. Covert tech sharing with human allies began, unofficial, of course. No one acknowledged the Titan. They didn't have to. It had already spoken. Weeks later, Elara stood once more at the Titan's observation bay. The stars looked unchanged. But they weren't. Not really. Sol spoke beside her, voice calm. Statistically, this result was unlikely. We didn't win, she said. We made them think. That's the win. Sol paused. Will that be enough? She gave a tired smile. No. But it bought us time. Outside, the Titan's frame shifted slightly, its engines folding space around it, preparing to vanish. One last pulse of light shimmered across its hull. Not a weapon. Just a message. 3 words etched in ancient Earth script. We remember everything. Another species POV of the Titan?